Good morning, everyone. Let's make sure that you can hear me first of all. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Fantastic. Thanks, Stan. Thanks, Paul. And can I have a volunteer? Anybody wants to be a co-host so I can concentrate with the news and somebody else can let people in as they come in. Any volunteer?
I can do it, Luca, but I haven't done it before, if you want me to.
That's fine, Carol. You just have to, when we get to the top of the screen, you can say people are in the waiting room. You just have to click on admit.
Okay.
So that's very simple.
Very good. I'll do that for you.
Okay, thank you very much. You're now co-host. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Today is kind of like an exciting day as well, because it's we have today is the day that my creation of a crypto-based structural node goes live. So it's kind of like it's nice to have a new product and a new things that we brought to life. So it's it's a very momentous day for me and for Chad, Cashbox, because we're breaking new ground. But stopping being self-indulgent, so let me share the screen and share the news with you. Okay. Okay. Now let's start with one of our friends. Really, we just reorganize things for a second. Quite a few things to talk to you about today. I wanted to start from this, and we've spoken several times about El Salvador. Now there's the president of El Salvador announced the creation of a Bitcoin city, around the Conchagua volcano, and it also announced that the energy, the geothermal energy from the volcano will power Bitcoin mining facility. But the reason why I wanted to bring this to your attention is, and it's not so much for the kind of amount of money that the land around this volcano is going for, is more for what they are planning, and what could be the way to come for countries that are trying to attract cryptocurrency and Bitcoin investments. So what they have done very cleverly is that to attract people to El Salvador, in particular to the Bitcoin city, they pretty much removed any form of income tax from this initiative. So people they have vast amounts, for example, of income generated through cryptocurrency. If they transfer to this place, they wouldn't have to pay any tax on the cryptocurrency earning, but also from not any form of income tax either. The only form of tax that is going to be levied is taxes for buying goods and services. So and this is why kind of like we see the difference in how cryptocurrency can be used to actually power a nation state, like El Salvador is trying to do, because we have to remember the income tax is still a relatively modern invention, and it was only started, for example, in the US in the last century, so it is really only about 100 years old. And this could be a way for especially countries that have found it difficult to attract investment, like foreign investment, to attract foreign capital. So not just El Salvador, but there could be other jurisdictions that tend to try to attract cryptocurrency investment through the same means. Because at the end of the day, if we are faced with lots of countries that are trying to tax in a punishing way owners of cryptocurrency, there will be others that use this as an opportunity and try to offer people they have accumulated vast amount of wealth, but they haven't cashed it in yet. Because just imagine somebody that had, for example, bought Bitcoin when it was still very cheap at a few $100s, and has a lot of Bitcoin now that are worth several $1 million. Now, they haven't incurred any tax because they haven't sold it, and tax is charged generally in most countries at as capital gains because cryptocurrency is treated as assets. But just imagine that these people could change jurisdiction and have that kind of tax-free income to look forward to. So it is a very dangerous game then that authorities are playing with cryptocurrencies, because one of the things that is being talked a lot about in cryptocurrency industries is creating this kind of like utopian nation state. Where owners of cryptocurrency basically can roam freely and can do whatever they like, and this is pretty much what is starting to happen in El Salvador, and this is why many organizations are very worried about what El Salvador is doing, because they are worried that this can replicate across the world and then start to kind of reposition wealth away from the hands of the regulators. Okay, so looking forward, looking not just at what happens now, but looking at maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the line, what this could mean could be, again, this is an initiative coming from the ground up, okay, rather than the other way around. So just imagine this could be a redefinition of the way the taxes are collected, for example. Because if this is something that takes hold, then and more countries then start adopting this way of collecting taxes, it could force the hand of the larger economies to adopt a similar style of tax collecting, and it can be done with cryptocurrency. It could be done very easily by attaching a tax, a transaction tax, for example, for every cryptocurrency transaction. And it could be done even now in the way that many cryptocurrency are founding themselves and their community already right now. So this will only need to be extended to kind of larger communities, to represent a certain jurisdiction. So it is something that it's possible right now. I mean, as we see, El Salvador is already obviously trying to have that kind of like first mover advantage, and it is already, as you can see from this article, is already attracting a lot of interest. A lot of capital is starting to move to El Salvador to support this idea of creating a Bitcoin city. But we'll see what that I do expect a multiplying kind of, I'm not saying yet probably a snowball effect in 2022, but start of different jurisdictions that will follow El Salvador in making cryptocurrencies legal tender. And we've already spoken together before about Lugano in Switzerland and about other small countries that are going that way. There could also be some kind of like larger economies that make the move, or at least talk about it openly this year. Okay, moving on to the next thing. This is interesting because following the recent success of Terra and the USD stablecoin, now the controversial founder of Tron has announced that he will launch a algorithmic stablecoin in May called USDD, but also this algorithmic stablecoin is going to be backed by $10 billion to help it to maintain the peg to the US dollar. So this is something that it is. I know that Justin Stanley, I mean, he talks a lot more than he delivers, really. But it is interesting that these kind of things are started to be talked about in cryptocurrency terms, and there is, as we said before, there is a kind of interest for moving away from pegged stable coins like Tether, like USDC, to they are basically where the reserves that are being collected are invested in directly in US dollars, to cryptocurrency, to stable coins that are supported by a basket of other cryptocurrencies. Okay, and this is what this USDD is going to be like. So this USDD is going to be backed by this $10 billion of reserve, but also by the Tron currency, the TRX currency of Tron. So originally it's going to be launched, the USDD, as an Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain token, potentially to be also released on other blockchains as well. But it is important, as kind of this is a very big kind of like announcement, in terms of the size and at least what they are planning or trying to do, whether they can actually deliver, and it's going to be an adopted way of transacting in cryptocurrencies. We will see, time will tell. But it is important that there are several people now talking about this from several different directions. So also often we have spoken about Cardano and the algorithmic stablecoin that they're launching there, and there are many other projects that are planning to release stablecoins. So this market is going to, as there is more money coming into crypto, then there is a need for more stablecoins as well, and we will see more projects come to light and trying to establish a standard for for an algorithmic stablecoin as opposed to the US dollar backed. Okay, there's quite a few news as well now that I wanted to talk to you about regarding the Earth Day. There was a couple of days ago so talking about obviously the environment and green energy, and it is interesting, as obviously green energy is being talked in the same price as Bitcoin mining. They as often being criticized for consuming a lot of energy. Now the actual reality is completely different. As you can say, Bitcoin mining naturally is gravitating to green energy. And this is not just because of political pressure, but it's also for very practical reasons, in the sense that the mining operations are very mobile, so they can easily move to be close to the energy production sources. But also, one of the biggest costs in producing energy is transporting it. So if you can imagine, like, I know we sit here in the UK, for example, a lot of the energy that we consume is not actually produced in the UK, but it's produced in other countries, like especially France in this case. So, and the transferring from one place to another, there's a lot of the energy gets wasted. Okay, so by Bitcoin miners being highly mobile, they can then relocate close to the green sources of energy, especially because, sources of energy like, for example, wind farming or solar energy, I've got some peaks of energy productions that they sometimes cannot be used because they're surplus to requirement. And the Bitcoin mining industry can absorb these peaks, so that in general, the effect on the global economy production is a positive effect because the energy gets used more efficiently. At the moment, so I didn't want to do that yet. So we're starting to see more of these articles, kind of why blockchain is the cornerstone of investing in our planet. And this is exactly the reason behind it. So we're already talking about over 70% of the Bitcoin mining industry relying on renewable energy. And this we'll see, for example, I don't know if it was in this article or not, probably some I read so many that somewhere else, but especially for countries like Norway, for example, that is becoming it's already a leader in renewable energy. So 100% of the energy in Norway is produced by renewable sources, mainly hydroelectric energy. And there is a growing appetite, as we already discussed before, in having Bitcoin miners that are powered by completely renewable energy, because that takes away the kind of this bad press of the Bitcoin has been involved in. And I know that a lot of kind of institutional grade investors, funds have got in their mission to also invest in green project and green energy. So this makes it as possible for them to invest, because if the energy used for the mining operations is certifiably green. Let me just go on to some of the other projects are talking about the Green Day. It's interesting because now we can see different projects that can marry the real world, obviously like the rainforest, to crypto and to the gamification of the efforts to keep these fantastic resources. So this is a project like 10,000 non-fungible tokens that were released based on protecting the Amazon rainforest. But it's not just the fact that you buy an NFT and you plant so many trees and so on, but it's kind of like make it more interesting because your NFT is physically almost like connected to what happens to that part of the world. So if it rains on that part of the forest, then it rains on your NFT, and you can evolve. You can evolve your NFT over time, so that it becomes more valuable. So he actually, by having the NFT and by managing your asset, you also learn about the rainforest, and you learn about what needs to be done to maintain it and to keep it going. So it has got a strong educational element to it, which is the interesting part about these kind of crossovers, projects that marry the real world with the digital and blockchain world. On a different thing, and we're talking about different subjects but still connected. If we talk about now the metaverse, so and still, although we talk about it every week, what really is the metaverse? And one thing is that there isn't a, if you see this is just highlighted a part of this article, there is no single definition of the term that is accepted by everyone. Okay, so the phenomenon is described generally as a network of 3D virtual worlds aimed at social connection. A simulated digital space focused on creating a real-world-like environment for users' interaction, a synonym for cyberspace, etc., etc. So at the moment, what, in practical terms, what it is at the moment and what it could be in the future. At the moment, what it is really being used for, if you can imagine, is almost like a digital mall. Okay, and that's why a lot, because if you think about, this is a trend that has been going on since the beginning of the noughties. Okay, so people spending more and more time, more and more of their free time online, as opposed to, in the real world, walking around, going to the shops, etc., etc. So obviously, when you think about advertising, and advertisers want to be in front of the users, in front of the potential customers. So the same way that they spend money to either advertise, on television and newspapers, by signs on the road, or by having a shop window in a place that it's, like Regent Street in London, or a shopping mall where there is a very high footfall. Now they are spending money on where people are hanging out, which is in the digital reality. The thing is, though, is that because we are in the digital world, and there is a crossover now where these metaverses are becoming kind of like augmented reality kind of places. There is so much more that we can do. So we're not limited by what can be done in the digital, in the real world, but everything is possible. So many initiatives are now becoming at the same way like a place to experience something, but also they can become a museum, they can become a virtual, exhibition place, a kind of concert venue. So we're not limited that by anything. So we have in the real world what we will see in the future. Once the technology is evolved enough and the bandwidth is evolved enough for us to be able to to actually access this project with virtual reality, we'll see a different way of connecting with other people digitally, which is a lot more intuitive, a lot closer to what we do now by going to the pub and meeting our friends. We can do that in a virtual world as well. In the same way that we, having a meeting with somebody digitally is not like in Zoom, like we're doing right now, where you see a picture of everybody, but it could be very much like meeting people around the table in a real meeting, so that everybody can see each other, can move around the room, talking to one person rather than another. And shopping, for example, can be similar to what you do now, where you can actually, your digital avatar can actually walk into a shop, pick something up, looking if they like it, they could try it on. So all these different things that can be done potentially in a real world. And imagine, for example, you go in a shop and not only you can try the clothes, but you could go into, maybe if it's a brand that's been around for, 50 years, you could go into the museum, could go into maybe the Gucci museum and see how the brand has evolved over time, and have maybe look at a virtual catwalk. And so there are all these things that are possible that are not really possible in the real world, but we are looking at new ways of experiencing life through a combination of real products and virtual products. Because as now we're starting to consume more virtual products, a lot of these brands are starting to sell stuff that doesn't exist. Example is like Adidas has had a very successful sale of, I think it was over $40 million just by selling virtual sneakers. Fine, you understand that, so, but at the same time, I mean, logically, if you think about it, we buy brands, most of the people, I know there are many different reasons, but we're talking about clothing brands, for example. Most of the times it's because you either want to be part of a certain group, or because you want to show off in front of your friends, etc., etc. So the same way that you do it by buying clothes with a certain label, you can also do it online, because if you spend more time online than you do in the real world, then you want to show off in your digital world rather than the real one. So even brands are important even in the digital world, because at the end of the day, they fulfill the same need that they do in the real world. So we will see the digital assets become more and more valuable from that point of view, as people spend more time, more of their free time online, as this trend continues. And this is a prime example. For now, like Hong Kong subway operator plans virtual station in the metaverse. Okay, so they collaborating with Sandbox and also with Animoca Brands, which Sandbox is a subsidiary of, to build a railway-focused virtual space to create unique, fun, and immersive experiences through gamification. So it's not just, again, it can sound pretty boring. You're just saying, well, yeah, great. There's a a subway station in the metaverse, but why would you go there? And this is what it is possible to do. So it's not just a subway station, but they also planning to build kind of like a gaming and what's it called, like a fun park, in this virtual underground system. And also there's going to be a railway museum, etc., etc. So this is what we're talking about. Okay, so connection using for education, but at the same time for entertainment, and maybe to also start capturing what the users want to see in the subway stations of the future. Okay, because that's collecting user information is something that is very valuable to brands all over the world, and if they can get that for free by interacting with people, then it's an added value for project like this to have a presence, to a virtual presence in the metaverse. Now, a few more things before we move on to the question and answer session. This is another brick in the wall, as we can say. Okay, so every week I'll bring you more things. So this is a grocery service, the grocery delivery service in the United Emirates, that is now accepting crypto payments. Okay, so and this will happen more and more. So where you can start using direct crypto payments. In this case, they accept stable coins, USDC and Tether as payments. Okay, and they're also planning to start paying their stuff with crypto. Okay, so this is starting to happen, to become real. So when people start being paid in crypto and start spending crypto directly, you go and explain how you can consider this an asset and not a currency. So this is coming. Okay, it is coming, and I think the reality will make the case for cryptocurrency becoming and being treated probably by a lot of jurisdiction as in terms of tax treatment like currency themselves. It's not at the moment. At the moment, they're treated like assets. So there is capital gains on your taxes, and this actually at the moment in many places like the UK would become a nightmare to administer, because every time you spend some cryptos, you have to account for, and the difference between what you paid for it and what it was worth at the time when you spent it, and account for the capital gains tax on it. So, it wouldn't be easy either for users or for the authorities to police that at all. And as this will become more and more used, then obviously it would become virtually impossible to police. Okay, now on other types of news, it's a nice picture. This guy is Stephen McWhirter, okay, which is being hired by Binance to head their compliance role. So it's a former British regulator. It was part of the Financial Conduct Authority, and this has been happening for a while now from Binance. Binance is investing more and more into compliance because it is being seen now kind of like is growing into a main institution, and it needs to comply with different regulation all across the world. So they're starting to invest money in bringing experts to their organization to make sure that they they are in full compliance of the law wherever they operate. Okay, so it is good news in a way for all of you that deal with Binance, and it will take in time. It will take a lot of the stigma away from what has been probably the best cryptocurrency exchange that has been verified over the past year. This is something else that I wanted to bring to your attention, not particularly because, I mean, I don't know much about this this particular gaming platform called Open Blocks, but it just to make, you know, to just make you realize, you know, how these projects are actually coming about and how much interest there is for them. So this is kind of completely, you know, very new project that raised $3 million at a 30 million valuation, and is had, you know, interested for very well-known names like 3 Commas Capital, for example, that they are taking part in this seed round, and this is kind of like it's a play in the play to earn kind of games. They are kind of like they are growing very fast in the crypto world, and they are planning, this particular company is planning to release the first game in, I think, in the autumn. I can't find it right now, but it's sometimes around October, November time. Okay, just as an example of all the how much interest there is in gaming, and also the crossover between gaming, NFTs, and cryptos, that is taking a lot of attention. Now, other couple of things. Let's see. So this is talking about the world's first regulated crypto bank that is waiting, kind of like is a Swiss bank that it's doing a lot of work with institution, and they got a lot of banking experience in it as well. So it's not just a completely you know, completely new project and all kind of like crypto native, but it is a project that's born in Zug in Switzerland, and it could be interesting as a crossover point between, you know, the world of real banking and then this new kind of like banking DeFi project that could slowly start creating a new reality that will take the place of many banking organizations. Okay, so just want to bring it to your attention. And the last one is one of the names that we all know, which is Netflix. Now, if you can see what happened this week, when Netflix announced that it started losing users for the first time in history, and they had a big drop in price. But I also plotted it here. This is kind of like a 2022 chart. At the top, you see the S&P 500, so the American stock index, or the 500 largest companies in the US, and this orange one is Theta, which is a token that is its main objective is to create a video delivery network to actually rival companies like YouTube and Netflix. And as you can see, you know, although there has been this big drop in Netflix, the price of Theta hasn't actually followed. And it is thought that is now, especially with the new there were some news announced in Theta, and you can go and find out yourself about 10 days ago. And but it is thought there is now this is a more distributed way of consuming video, which we're all doing, but instead of coming from a centralized authority like it is YouTube, like it is Netflix, it's coming from spare capacity in our computers. So this is what Theta delivers videos by using spare capacity on computers like yours or mine to then code videos in a way that it's easy to transmit and then to transmit to the users. So The benefit of this is that the revenues don't go to Netflix or YouTube, but go to the people that support the network by providing the spare computers power, and B, to the user themselves. Okay, so it's a new economic system that we will see grow over time, because there are more benefits for everybody, and it's more going towards that. I wouldn't say power to the people, but power to the little people, so that the users can benefit by the huge increase in cost saving that there is by having kind of a mass adoption in a system like this, which already brings down the cost of delivery. So there are economies economic advantages of adopting a system like this, because long term it is cheaper than the existing system, but at the same time it offers more advantages for the whole community that gets involved, and simply they can do something that is beneficial to everybody in terms of cost savings, in terms of rewards for actually using something, and eventually we will see the cost of consumption and transmission of videos go down for all of us. So the services that you enjoy at the moment from kind of like Netflix, for example, can be available at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so I think I've come to the end of my rambling today, and let's stop the sharing. Let's get some questions going. So, okay, let me see your faces. If you're able to, please turn your video on so I can see you. And let's see some questions. At the moment, there's only one question in this. Eric, how does Cornucopia do? Cornucopia is doing very well. It's growing its community, it's selling a lot of NFTs. Cornucopia is a game. It's a multiplayer game on Cardano. It's growing to use bases, and I can actually show. We can have a look at the price as well. Why not? Let's go on. Let's go, it won't be on here. We go on this screen now. So let's see how the price is doing. Copy. That's the token for Cornucopia. Okay, as you can see here, if we put this is a daily chart, let's go into an hourly chart so you can have a look. He's doing pretty well since in the past week or so. He's
we can't see your screen.
Sorry?
We can't see your screen.
Okay, why not? Let me try again. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the Cornucopia price on an hourly chart. As you can see, from the 14th of April, it's actually almost doubled in price, but the actual release price of the token was 0.00, I think 36, something like this. So, it's already, grown by over 10 times since, since the token was released. It's still kind of fairly early games for the game, because the game hasn't been released yet. So this is still about the potential, about what is possible to do in the game. They started selling some items, some NFTs, and things that you can do in the game. This is the long-term chart, okay, of Cornucopia. So it went from as high as 75 at some stage. It's gone back to as low as 17, and now it's 45. So they're talking about cents here. So 4.5 cents and 7.5 cents was the highest point. So it's going very well. and it's carrying on its merry way. We'll see what happens when the game is released later on in the year. Jonathan, I don't know if you have any news, more than that. I haven't really been too deep in Cornucopia lately. I don't know if you heard anything else you can share.
No, only my failings to get hold of one of their bubble jet NFTs.
I know, I missed that as well. Actually, I just saw it on Discord yesterday. I think, I missed that.
Would have been nice if they've released some OG ones as well. So people who've been in the community for a long time have got their own special bubble jet. And it's it kind of baffles me, like the examples you're showing of the metaverse and our future, and how that's going to translate into value for me. Like, how am I going to get excited about the thought of owning? And this bubble jet thing, it's like, there's mild disappointment in not being able to buy one yet. It's like, that's gonna grow over time, isn't it? And we're gonna get furious about not making it into the coolest metaverse party and stuff like that. But it just feels very, very alien still.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's exactly that. It's being kind of like an early adopter, an early mover, and as the communities around certain projects go from the thousands to the millions, then obviously whatever is created has got some scarcity attached to it will grow in value. So it's from everybody that wants to get involved in that. Now the difficult part is picking the right horse. So which are the metaverse projects that have legs? They will still be there in 3, 4, 5 years, because you get new ones being launched pretty much on a weekly basis. But which one would do well? At the moment, actually, we do know that we got the big names like the Decentraland, Sandbox, the Somnium. Those are the kind of the big names already out there. But who knows if those are going to be the ones that dominate the future? At the moment, they are attracting a lot of investment from institutional adopters, let's put it that way. So brands and things like that, they are releasing on these platforms. But there are so many spaces that are still very new, like Cardano, like Polkadot, and so on. So we'll see, which one will kind of, I'm not saying dominate, but which one will attract more users. Which project will be more successful in attracting users, and those projects then are going to be valuable. Like if you were lucky enough to have bought a plot of land in Sandbox or Decentraland, now you will be a very happy bunny indeed, as we are around Easter time. So, and again, picking the right project at the right time can be valuable at the moment, because we're still in the early days of cryptocurrency. And by the way, one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that although the price hasn't really has been stagnating for a while in cryptocurrency, at the same time we see the two elements. That from one side the price is not doing much, but on the other side all the big buyers are accumulating. So it's kind of like they found the magic system that they can buy without attracting attention. But the one thing you should be careful of is that now the amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular, on exchanges is at the lowest it's ever been. I mean, for Ethereum, there is a justification because more and more Ethereum are being locked in the proof of stake protocol. And at the moment, once you put the money on there, you can't take them out until they finally release the proof of stake. So basically, there is less Ethereum as more is deposited for staking in proof of stake. Obviously, there is less in circulation. But for Bitcoin, the reason is simply that the whales, the big buyers, are accumulating Bitcoins and taking them off the market, taking them off the exchanges. And we're seeing kind of like Australia, as I know many of you are in Australia. Australia is launching its first Bitcoin ETF, and that is a spot ETF. So you're investing in that ETF, they will go out on places like Binance, like Kraken, like Coinbase, and buy Bitcoin, like me and you would do. So, and then obviously once they bought those Bitcoin, they take them off the exchanges. because they need to custody them and keep them safe. So it's a really interesting divergence in a certain way, because we're seeing a lot of buying from one side, but the price is not moving. Okay, because fear is still dominating in the market. Okay, but the one thing that that will happen, going forward, is that when eventually the price does start moving, the move will be very, very strong. So it would move up very. It won't be a gradual move, but it will move up very quickly, because simply the price is dominated by the exchanges that are going on. Okay, so and as there are less people on the market that that sell, and more people that carry on buying, then it's becoming a scarcer and scarcer assets. So be ready for that. And I'm saying, if you're like been sitting on the fence in cryptocurrency, still not decided if you want to buy or not. I'm not making predictions on what is a good time to buy exactly, because at the moment, in this particular market, there is in the short term, there is a higher probability that the prices would go down and the price will come up. But this is in the short term. Okay, we're talking about the next 3 months, maybe 6 months, but long term, unless something dramatic does happen, and we carry on the same, situation that we are at the moment, many projects will grow very, very well over the next 2 to 5 years. So I think if you look back in 2-3 years time, we could look back to 2022, a lot of us would be asking ourselves, why the hell didn't I buy more then? The same way that I myself have asked myself, in 2020, why didn't I put more money in it when I could buy Bitcoin at $5,000, and Ethereum at was just below $200. So these are the things that happen even now when the market is really stagnating and it's gone down by over 30% or from the peak. We're still looking at assets like Ethereum that from the beginning of 2021 has gone 4 times. Cardano, even from where it is now, and it's gone down 2/3 from its peak, but it is still about 5 times higher than it was at the beginning of 2021. So these are the kind of things that are almost like, and I'm not talking about small names. I'm not talking about the project that grown 20,000%. I'm talking about big names: Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot. All the big top 10 that already have had growth of 400, 500% in just over a year. And other people now are panicking and thinking, oh my God, will it go down or not? Yes, but of course, if things go up, they will come down. Okay, it's not a linear growth in asset growth, whether they are cryptocurrencies or stocks and shares or anything else that you might buy as an investment. There's never a linear growth, but there is a graph, prices that have peaks and troughs and have a certain movement over time. But if you zoom out and look at the long-term direction, then it's very difficult to pick a negative in it, because nobody that's invested even in Bitcoin over a 4-year term has ever lost any money, even if they bought at the real top, in 2018, when it was, the real top at 20,000. It took a little while, to get beyond that. You still be sitting pretty right now, having doubled your money in 4 years, which is not, it's not as fantastic as an investment as other assets as shown, but still, I would say pretty good return, doubling your money in 4 years, compared to other comparable assets like indexes and stock market and so on. So anybody that would like to unmute themselves and ask a question? So far, no?
I'll ask a question just about the funds that are buying crypto, like you mentioned, the one launched in Australia. Given that there's going to potentially still be some downside, if you've got it, would you think that putting some money into a fund like that, because it's been managed and surely they would be using shorts and protecting their asset base if the market does go down, whereas I may not have the skill to do that, would that be an assumption that I could take or not?
Not really. They won't be, an ETF will not be using shorts.
Won't they?
No, they won't be short in the market. They just simply, they get your money, they buy Bitcoin.
They buy it, hold.
Simple as that. The only difference is that, it takes the complexity away from many people, so that they can have, if you have a stocks and share brokerage account, you can go out and buy shares in the ETF in the same way. You don't have to worry about, wallets and where to keep your Bitcoins, etc., etc. They do all that for you. For a very, I mean, I don't know what the costs are for the Australian ETF, but generally costs for ETFs are less than 0.1% a year. So it's very low cost. But yeah, there is no particular advantage. I mean, if you have the holding Bitcoin, you can do it on your, by yourself, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
The one thing actually I wanted to talk to Jonathan about, and I'll do it here in front of you. We've been communicating about, I know that many of you have asked for a run through of how to do things on Cardano. And so I was thinking, Jonathan, why don't we do it arranging for next week?
Yeah, that'd be great. I have lots to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But it will be kind of like a very practical session as well on what to do and how to do simple tasks that maybe you've grown, you know how to do it on Binance, you maybe know how to do it on Ethereum. Cardano, things are slightly different. So we'll do a very practical session about the main projects of Cardano and how to interact with them and what to look for and how to navigate the space. Yeah, you up for it?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so that's it. We are on for next week then. Fantastic. Tim raised the hand. Do you want to ask a question, Tim?
Yeah, just Jonathan, just a moment. If you were to buy a hard wallet right now, would you choose Trezor or would you choose Ledger? And if you were to do, would you do one of each, or would you do a spare? You buy two of the one you choose.
I mean, I personally use Ledger, but they're just as good as one another. To be honest with you, if you buy two, it depends on if you have a need of keeping your assets separated, and you want to have maybe one account for certain investments, one account for other investments. But unless you got a special need like this, there is no particular need to have two different wallets. It may be sometimes, I mean, if you want to have maybe one cold storage wallet where you keep most of your buy and hold assets, maybe where you have most of your money, and the other one then that you use more regularly for buying and selling and so on. There could be a reason to have two that way. So you can have the one stored safely, maybe in a safe deposit box, something like that, because you know that you don't need to touch it on a daily basis, and the other one instead that you have more available for everyday use. That could be a reason for it, but it's up to you and the way you want to use it. And it's which one you prefer is down to personal preference. There is no, I wouldn't say there's any particular reason to use one over the other. But the one thing I would say, if you use Ledger, use the Ledger X. Don't buy the Ledger S, because although it's cheaper, it's what you can do with it is very limited, and wouldn't recommend it.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Carol, you have a question as well?
I do. Just with MetaMask, I was listening to recently talked about that if you need more than one MetaMask account, you can, as long as you use, say you use Browse for one and, Chrome for one and Brave for another on the same computer. Is that possible or not?
Yes, because MetaMask, it's a browser extension. So it lives on your computer and on your particular browser. Okay, so you could have completely separate MetaMask, one on, I don't know, one on Firefox and one on Chrome or one on Browse, you know, or simply if you just want a separate account, you can just create as many accounts as you want on the same MetaMask on the same browser.
Okay, yeah, if it's a different entity though, that's the thing. Like I was needing one for my super fund and one for me personally, and so I'd have to use different browsers. Correct?
Not necessarily. You can just have a separate account in MetaMask. Simply one name for your super and one name for your personal. So you don't need to, but if you want to keep them separated and you want to have one that's more, especially if you got a lot of funds in your super and you want to keep it completely separated, then that makes sense using a browser that you don't normally use. So there is less chance of it, you know, being compromised. And ideally, as I say, if you have a separate computer, that would be the best option, because if the computer is off, the computer is off and people can't get to your funds. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got one, Luca.
Yeah, sorry, Jonathan. Yeah.
Just one sec. Sue put a question into the chat right at the start.
I missed that. Okay, the sharing capacity on a personal computer lead to security issue. We're talking about company display data server capacity. We're talking about what I was talking for Theta earlier on.
Yeah. It's just my brain can't comprehend how someone would use my laptop or my PC. Can't comprehend yet.
So basically, what they do in the example of Theta, you download a node, a light node that sits, which basically is software on your computer. And then they send jobs to you, which is basically normally video encoding. So, and a job might take, you know, a minute, 2 minutes, or it might take several hours. Okay, so then your computer, you know, does that job, and at the end, when the job is delivered and verified, then they will send you a reward. In that case, they send you some Theta fuel, which is kind of the gas token on the Theta network, like Ethereum is on the Ethereum network.
So is that happening already, or is that's going to happen? No,
it's happening. It's happening already. Or it's the same thing. For example, you can do on if you use Brave as a browser, you can choose if you want to see adverts or not. And if you choose to see adverts, and they just basically what you get is a little pop out. You can say, I want to see, I don't know, 3 adverts an hour or 5 adverts an hour. You can choose how many you're seeing. And they just propose to you that you get a little pop out on your screen and say, you know, there is an advert about this particular company. Do you want to see? If you click on it, then you get rewarded for watching the advert. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's something that you do normally when you're on Chrome or something like this, or whatever browser you use. But at the end of the year, it could, come up to, maybe $200 or something for just using the browser, which, it all counts, it all mounts up in the end, So there are different projects like this that tend to use your spare capacity in your computer and reward you for using it. So it's the new economy. Now, guys, I will need to close the call now on time today, because I have another call straight afterwards at 9 o'clock.
Sorry, Luca.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Mugi,
I just want to quickly ask about MetaMask. So, what currency has to be to?
You're frozen now. So MetaMask, depending on
from
which
exchange to send.
It really depends on what MetaMask is kind of can be set up with different networks. So depending on what network you use, if you're on Ethereum, you need to send Ethereum to it. If you're on Binance Smart Chain, then you will need to send some, Binance Smart Chain tokens like BNB or BUSD, for example, on it. And if you use in Harmony One, then you need to send, one, depending whatever the token is on that particular blockchain that is used as gas. If you're on Phantom, you need to send Phantom tokens. You're on Avalanche, you need to send Avalanche token. So depending on who you need to interact with, and you need to then install that network on MetaMask and then fund it accordingly to what is needed on that network.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyway, this is the last question I can take, and I will see you again next week when Jonathan will lead the day with giving you a nice workaround on how to use Cardano. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, have a good weekend.